My name is Neil Gerber and I work for IBM. I'm in the energy and utilities vertical, and I'm on our global sales team focused on the power generation business. For the purposes of this kind of business, we have, it's IBM, we have verticals in 17 different verticals, so we work across the process industries. I'm focused in the power generation part of the business, but we work closely with our colleagues in chemicals and petroleum and the other process industries because of the similarities in the solutions. So one of the big focus areas for me right now is nuclear power. With the nuclear renaissance, we're seeing real progress in the U.S., but especially in places like China, in the Middle East now, and elsewhere, where they're really moving forward and building plants. And in many cases, it's either the first time they've built, in the case of the Middle East and some other countries, or in the U.S., it's the first time in 30 years. And so they're looking for sort of a fresh way to approach it, looking for lessons learned from other industries who have continued to build aerospace, shipbuilding, et cetera, where they've continued to move the technology forward. And the energy business needs to look at that and say, what can we borrow from those success stories to do a better job this time around in really managing the information flow throughout the entire life cycle. When you think from design, construction, operations, and maintenance, it's for nuclear plants, it could be a 60 to 80 to 100 year life cycle. And so thinking about how to, at the very start of the project, set up your IT systems and your information management and your business processes to think about using that information throughout that entire life cycle. I think there's two ways to look at that. One, if you look at greenfield plants, the first generation 3 nuclear plant is going to be commissioned in China in about 2013. And so if you look at, and that's the first one, and there's a long wave coming. So we're focusing a lot on the engineering portion of it right now, because that's the first part of the process, with an eye towards the owner-operators, starting to run these plants in 2015, 2020, 2025. So we have to sort of start with the engineering design portion, because that's the part that's underway right now, and then also be working with the owner-operators to be prepared to receive that information when the commissioning time comes. So it's important to start early with the phase that's underway, which is the engineering part of it, and with having an eye towards how am I going to use that information to run the plant over a long period of time. So the other piece is the nuclear business. There's 430 plants globally in operation. Most of them will be relicensed to run another 10, 20, 30 years. And so there's a lot of engineering efforts associated with that, with large maintenance processes, et cetera. So there's an opportunity even for the existing plants that are run by the nuclear power operations companies to look at some of this technology for how they do major modifications and keep their plant running for another 30 years. So there's sort of two parts. Yeah, so my job is to build out solutions, and we view solutions as a combination of software, services, and particularly those two things, but also hardware and other pieces of the puzzle. But as you've seen some of the discussions here at the conference, it's very important to look at change management, at business processes, at the people side of it as well. So it's a combination of software systems in combination with the companies changing the way they do business and how they build out their business processes to make maximum use of the existing IT systems. In many cases, they're running with systems that are 10, 20 years old in their existing plants. Now they get a fresh look at what's available now and how to modify the way they do their business going forward to take advantage of that. So I think it's a real opportunity to really pull together both the services and the software portion of it to move forward. If you think about the life cycle of a power plant, as an example, if we talk about 60 or 80 years, a typical IT cycle is maybe 5, 10, 15 years. So you're going to go through a whole series of IT refresh cycles during the operation of that plant. So really the fundamental IT architecture and how you build it, the standards work that's being done, ISO 15926 and the other things that are being discussed here is really key, because those systems are going to change. You want to be able to keep updating your software and your systems over this period of time. So it really comes down to doing a good job of architecting your IT systems and your business processes so they can continue to be valuable over this long life cycle. A key aspect to how IBM does business is around having very strong business partners. We know we can't have the domain expertise for every part of the business. So our solutions pull together IBM software, third-party software, and third-party solution providers as well. FileNet has a long history of working closely with business partners like SWORD, and when IBM acquired FileNet, that continued, that process has continued, and actually I think sort of strengthened. So when we go to a market like China, it's important for us to have very strong partners who bring world-class expertise to bear, because these new markets really want to move quickly up to the highest levels of performance, and the way they want to do that is by looking at the best practices globally today. So it's important to bring in key partners who are working as their core competency around that particular business. It's important for IBM to connect to business partners who have the expertise in Europe, in the US, in the places that have been running nuclear plants, as an example, for 40 years, 30 years. To bring that expertise to bear to move the emerging markets up very quickly to best practices.